Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball, with June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause. All right, welcome to the award-winning Live Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with my amazing friend Michele, with 1L VanDusen, who still has her help wanted sign hanging in the back because apparently the help has not come. So
I'm still waiting.
Still waiting.
Yep. I mean, I always need help, so it's always wanted.
Yeah.
And again, I'm only serving up 50 cents. 50 cents, that's it. So
is it always wanted though? Do you know, I heard there's a lot of times that I heard my mom say, "You're not helping. Your help is not helping." So sometimes it's not wanted. It just depends on what's happening. So just before we started recording, Michele, you were discussing how if I stop breathing while we were recording, then you were just gonna keep rolling on. And just continue to videotape as I die. But I said that's kind of my goal. Like, I'm not even mad at you because I really think like I want to, when I die, I want it to be in a way that people at the funeral are trying to be serious about like me being gone. But at the same time, like everybody's in the back of the room going, "Did y'all hear? Did you hear how she died? Did you hear? Like she was videotaping herself to see how many mini marshmallows she could fit in her mouth." And she just died in her kitchen floor, like the kids showed up and I was just on my back with marshmallow puff coming out of my face. I don't know. I think that would be really fun. My kids have planned my funeral. Have your kids planned your funeral yet, Michele?
I think when they were all teenagers, in middle school, high school, they planned my funeral. Probably
No,
to
I
help
don't
me
mean like planning
along.
to kill you.
Oh,
I mean planning your funeral. Like my youngest son is like, "I'm going with a vertical casket. That would be awesome if you're just standing up as people come
with
in."
the glass lid.
Yes. Yeah. Just, I'm going to be saluting. I'll have some weird outfit on. He said he's going to hire a clown to stand beside my casket because his oldest brother.
He's already given me the deposit for it, so I'll be there.
Is that right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
his the older brother, he is one of those people who are scared of clowns. He doesn't want to be near them. He doesn't like them. So Trey just thought that would be great to hire a clown to stand by the casket so that Ty can't even get close to me, and that he's just So that's my twisted and bizarre family. That's my weird family.
Yeah. I have my I picked out songs that I would like them to play. I've made a video, me talking, because I think that's even better with even audience interaction. You just wait for the pause and they're like, "It's okay, you can laugh. I still can't hear you." Whatever. Something
You're gonna do
like
crowd
that.
work at your own funeral, just
Crowd work at my funeral, yeah.
So how many people here have ever died before? Anyone?
Anybody? This isn't my first rodeo.
It's okay. I see you. Now everybody else might not be able to see you, but where I'm at now, I can see you. Those who have died before.
Oh, looks like so-and-so's losing some more hair.
Hey, Bob,
Uncle
remember
Tony.
how you thought that your aunt went to heaven?
Haven't found her yet. No.
That ain't right. That ain't right at all. Well, speaking of family, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to
wait.
our families. Yes.
Before we start there, I want to back up for just a minute. I didn't want to record you dying. I just wanna,
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to record, the process before. I would've shut the
Gotcha.
camera off, and just rolled the RIP after that. I just want you to know. So, okay.
That'd be great. Just a and this episode was in memory of I just died, Michelle, like 5 seconds ago. I don't know. I may die from these. I don't know. I'm just surprised because I put the money into these earbuds that I have on right now. And just a few minutes ago, I got electrocuted by my earbuds. Okay. These are not Dollar Tree earbuds like the last ones. These came from Five and Below. Okay.
5
So
and
they were the
below. Ooh.
$5 and below. I upped it. I spent 5 times as much on this pair. And I don't know if it's like my earring, but I was like, look at it. Like, oh, okay. But I didn't want to take off my cute earrings. So
You might want
you might get your wish. I may just be electrocuted right now. And yeah. And then, hey, if I am, you all check us out on YouTube and Roku TV on the Creative Motion Network. So that'll be
You'll be
fun.
number 1 at that point.
Oh, that'll be fun. Okay.
Okay, back to balancing.
Balancing the family. That's what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about today because, okay, so for listeners who might not know, Michelle, you have all boys. I have all boys. How many boys do you have?
I have 4. Well, 5 if you count my husband.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And I have 2. I have Ty and Trey. So currently one is 18 and one is 22 years old. How old are your kiddos?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask me that. Okay, so that's a great question. I wanna go with, my final answer for
Mm,
today will be 20, 22, 24,
hmm
and 26.
hmm
But in a month or so, that all changes. So that's what I'm gonna go with. They're
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
numbers right now.
So here's the question.
Yeah.
Do your boys listen to this podcast?
Only one. Uh, one child listened to it to help me to fix it, and so no, they don't
Okay, so
listen.
even if
So
you
we could
got it
talk about 'em.
wrong, they're not gonna hear it. I can tell you right
That's
now
right.
that my youngest son wears a tutu and barks at the moon every night and like whatever. He's not listening. He doesn't care. He doesn't care
Now,
about my
now my
comedy.
my son's girlfriend, she listens. So
Oh,
shout out,
nice.
hey Haley. Okay, that's a
Hey,
shout out.
okay. Hey,
Yep.
Haley. So did you get that son's birthday right? Or that his age?
I'm
Haley,
gonna go with
don't tell.
yes.
Don't tell, because yeah, if you're the girlfriend, Michelle could be your mother-in-law, and you don't want to get in bad graces. So shh, let's not tell the boyfriend if she got
Oh,
it
she's
wrong.
amazing. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yes.
He couldn't have picked better. That's all I'm
Mhm,
saying. I'm gonna just put
mhm.
that right there.
Well, and we're keeping secrets, Haley. That's all I'm saying is we just keep secrets. That's the code between the girlfriend and the boyfriend's mother. You just
That's
shh,
right,
shh,
and
shh.
all our listeners in
Yeah.
India, don't tell. All our listeners in America, don't tell
Yes. Yeah.
anybody.
No. No.
Yeah,
No.
Australia,
Okay.
everybody. Yeah.
So yeah, my boys they don't listen. My son, my boys are not even remotely interested in what I'm doing, and that in itself can be a balancing act, right? That in
Mm,
itself can be, not everybody gets it. Not
yeah.
everybody's going to buy into it, right? And we have to have a thick skin when we get on stage and in this type of career. It can be very
Oh,
difficult. And so what are you thinking?
you said thick skin. I just
Yes.
thought we're supposed to be thick.
Oh, well, that
Ah,
that
now
can
I
help
gotta
too.
lose weight.
that,
Man!
that
Ah!
can help too. That can help too. No, like we can't get upset or take it personal when our family members just don't get it, when they don't buy into it. Now, if they're trying to block you from doing what you're doing or they're constantly criticizing, that's one thing. But it's another thing to go, it's okay that Ty and Trey are not like, "Oh, mom, where's your next show?" Or, "I want to bring people to come see you," or, whatever, because I'm mom first. Like that's
Mm,
what they see in me. And that's the most important thing that they see in me. I don't need them to be a fan of my comedy. I don't need to put that pressure on them to be someone that emotionally supports me through this journey, right? Because they're my
mhm.
kids. That's not their job. What's your thoughts on that?
Completely opposite. The whole
Yeah.
reason I have 4 boys is to make them work. So, they're
Mm,
gonna set up the merchandise table, they're gonna sell the merchandise, and they're gonna
yeah.
smile, by golly. No,
Yes.
um, actually, no, I think that's a great and a very healthy viewpoint to realize that your emotional, support system is not necessarily your kids, but we
Mhm.
do have to build a good support system around us if we're gonna have a good, healthy balance between
Right.
our family life and our comedy life. And see, and this is also men in comedy also need to have that balance, but
Right.
as women, that have children, mothers, we have to carry it completely different.
Right.
Um, and so it really is good to talk to your kids about what you do. I remember the first time, because when they're little, they're like, "You're not funny." But then the first time that my son came to one of my shows, and and I was trying some new material. Just something happened and it just made me laugh, and so I did this whole thing about, a lazy Susan, about how one time we were out to meal and our kid, fell asleep and, they get heavy if you're trying to hold him, you're trying to eat, so, and he's a real heavy sleeper, so you just stick him on the table and, you put a plate in one hand, the chips, the dips, and you just spin the kid around so people can get all what they want, right?
Mm.
So instead of just doing the joke, I went ahead and I laid down on the floor and I'm going around,
Oh, nice,
and
nice. Yes.
and so he's dying, right? And then
Mhm.
I'm laying there on my back and then I flip over and I thought, I'm like, this floor is really dirty. So now I started because I didn't have a concept of how I was going to get up from the floor.
Mm.
So
Gotcha,
I've
gotcha.
I've cleaned this very filthy stage. I'm laying on my belly and I'm like, "I'll just do the show from here." You know? So I did some crowd work just laying, facing people, and then I attempted to get up and I made it up. But after that show, he looked at me because I asked him, I said, "What'd you think?" He goes, "You're funny." It was the
Mm.
first
Nice,
time that it
nice.
brought it into a whole 'nother realm for him, where he actually now invites his buddies, his college buddies, if I'm, doing a show in town, he'll invite them over, like, "You guys gotta come see my mom, she's really funny." So
Oh,
it's
nice.
yeah, it's nice to have one out of the group that,
Yeah.
like,
So
believes in me.
so you're saying I need to have 2 more kids and then maybe
Yes.
one
Yes,
of
that
the
is
4.
exact
No,
well,
that's really
yeah.
cool that they and that's gotta feel great. I mean, that's I have no idea how that feels. Thanks for rubbing that in as I just opened up my wounds and told you that my children don't like no, my kids, you started doing comedy when, they were younger.
Yes.
Then you kinda took a hiatus to focus on them
Mhm.
and had comedy kind of on the back burner, and
Yeah.
then when they got older and it was more appropriate, timing in your heart to do it, then you jump back into it. Am I right? Am I explaining that correctly?
Yes, you are right, and then, did and then, COVID hit, right? So
Mm,
now I'm
yeah.
just kind of not going anywhere these days. I have a couple of shows here and there. Um, but yeah, that's kinda how it started. So I just threw some things real fast up here. It's, tips on how to balance the balancing act,
Mm,
and
yes.
it's things that I learned on the road. Um, First and foremost, you have to have a plan. So I knew that, like there, when I was going to be traveling up to, I went to Chicago. We were doing something for an NBC kind of a show, kind of a deal,
Mhm.
and it was me and a couple of their comedy buddies, and we were an act together, and we were traveling up there. Well, my kids are little; they're in elementary school, so we have a kindergartner, a first grader, third, fifth, or whatever,
Mm,
whatever their grades were, and our plan was I was gonna go do this, and Ross, who had a full-time job, was gonna stay home and take care of the kids, get them to school, and all that kinda stuff.
right.
Um, so that brings me to my second point. Um, have a backup plan.
There you go, there
So
you go. So
have a backup plan,
yeah, yeah.
because the very first day, um my it's Monday, kids have to go to school, it's
Mhm.
super early, Ross
Yeah.
gets them all, one of them has to, like, doesn't get their shoes on right, or he's like, "All right, let's go back and try to put their shoes on." In the meantime, the other 3 are outside playing with water guns, and, he comes outside, he's like, "Why are you soaked?" And the other two come by with the guns. He's like, "Why are you guys squirting with water? You know, with water guns?" And the kids with these grins, "It's not water." And because they peed in them. So
Oh my,
so they
that's a whole new image of the super soaker right there.
yeah,
That's
right?
oh my
So
cheese.
yeah, they peed in him and then soaked their brother
Yeah.
down. So now this backup plan is, okay, everybody's gonna be late. I'm gonna be
Yep.
late to work. And he had to bring him in, and it was crazy. So our original plan of me having a huge career and him staying home with the kids never happened. So we
Yes.
had to have a backup plan. And so our backup plan was not to go on long trips out of
Mm,
state anymore. You know, it
yeah.
limited the weekends that I was gone. Um, you know, and we also, to make sure our marriage stayed healthy and strong, was that I was home every Sunday for church, because we wanted to make sure that the
Yeah.
boys knew that this is our priority, our
Right.
home, because we are Christians and we have a Christian worldview.
Right.
Um, that just because there's an opportunity to do something, you don't choose that opportunity over God. And so that was our focus, to make sure that they were raised that way. So I came off the road and only did a couple of stuff here and there, but then I incorporated our comedy into working with the kids. And so at the elementary school, I started doing after school comedy club, did an all school writing program. So, we just
Mm,
shifted and did that. And so that's the first, the first crazy parts of it. So
gotcha.
what about you? Because you seem to have started in you've had several careers or several different
I
things that
have.
you've done in
Yeah.
your life, radio and a
Hmm.
business owner,
Yeah.
and I know that you also worked in school. When
Hmm.
you started to do comedy, though, your kids were already a little bit older, right? What
Yeah,
age level
yeah.
were they?
So my oldest son was a senior in high school when I just first started to write and pursue this, right? And so now he's in graduate school. So he was on his path to to finishing high school and starting the next phase of his life, and so he wasn't remotely interested in what I was doing because at this point he's moving out, he's going to college, like none of
Mhm.
that's going on. My youngest son, he was going into his freshman year in high school,
Mm.
and so yeah, I mean all of us were kind of going in major transitions in our life. Things were
Mhm.
changing so quickly, and
Yeah.
also, I don't want to say a selfish time, but it is kind of it's a self-centered time for your children when they're in
Mhm.
college and they're in high school. The whole world revolves around them, and
Yep, yep.
everything is the biggest thing, when they're in high school, it's the biggest dance, it's the biggest football game, it's the biggest breakup, it's the biggest concert, it's
It's
everything is the biggest in their
devastating.
lives. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and I don't wanna say my kids have not been supportive in a way, but they're just not interested, they're just not that into it. But at the same time, I've also, kind of like you, I've done my best to balance things as I'm doing this. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean I haven't missed anything at all, but it means that I try, like you said, I try to have a plan. And I try to plan ahead because the when things catch up to you, it's usually because a lot of times it's because I just didn't think ahead on things.
Mm,
And
mhm.
so this year for me, priority was sports. It was making sure in football, they only play 9, 10 football games. This
Yeah.
is the last high school football games he's ever gonna play. Same thing with basketball. Now they played 50 something basketball games. So I was okay with missing this one here, that one there. I just didn't want to miss homecoming or senior night, those kind of things that
Mhm.
I knew were going to mean something to my child. And it'll be the same thing as I round the end of this year out. But I've talked to definitely talked to other moms in comedy, and a lot of times it's like we feel like we have to apologize for making that a priority in our lives because
Yeah.
we're not pushing through, we're not head on, and not that there's not women with children that aren't just
Mhm.
driving through it like a bull, you know what I'm saying? But for me,
Yeah.
that's not what I was called to do, and like you said, that's not what you were called to do as far as like the Sundays and things like that. Um, but I'm not going to apologize for making my kids first because I will only have them for so long.
Right.
But there is this
Actually,
kind of,
no.
yeah, yeah, there is this kind of guilty. I was talking to another comedian in Virginia not long ago, and she said, "Do you ever feel like you're not doing enough in comedy because you're a mom and you have all of these
Mm,
things that you're trying to balance?" And I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, those guilty feelings can creep in where it's like, oh, I would be this or this or this. You know what? I would be nothing without my family. I would be nothing without
yeah.
my." And it's the same thing with my spouse. He travels. He travels a lot. So he was a fireman. He's still a firefighter, but that was his profession for 26 years. For the last 5 years, he was the fire chief in the third largest
Mm,
city in Kentucky. He carried a very heavy load. Well, when he
yeah.
retired, he went to work um, in sales, selling fire equipment and fire trucks, and so he travels a lot. And then my gigs are typically out of town, and so
Yeah.
a balance that we've tried to do is, any time that I can go with him to where he's going or he can go with me,
Mhm.
then we go. And
Yeah.
there's times I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go to Wisconsin in the snow in February, like, I don't wanna go there, and it'd be really easy to be like, "Nah, you go." But then the next weekend, I'm gonna be in Indiana, and then the next weekend, he's in Florida, and then the next okay, so now we just because I don't wanna go because it's complicated and I gotta put some effort into it or
It's
vice
gonna be
versa.
cold.
Yeah, then,
Yeah.
the next thing you know, uh, you're disconnected from your
Yeah.
spouse, and we've seen it. I don't know how much you've seen of it, but in the short time that I've been doing comedy, I've seen people, whose marriages have broke up. I've seen and talked to
Mhm.
some veterans who I would never tell their stories, but they tell their stories to other people about how as they started to rise in fame and notoriety, um, it was difficult to be that person that people are lined up and telling you, "You've
Mhm.
changed my life and you're amazing and I want a picture with you," and then go home and have somebody who is not treating you like the king or the queen, not
Yeah.
treating you like the celebrity that you just felt like for, the last 3 weeks or whatever. It
Yeah.
it's it's a balance, and the balance means planning ahead and focusing.
Yeah. Like when our kids were little, little bits, Ross was he used to teach Microsoft classes, like SQL and all the high end behind the scenes kind of stuff. And so when he'd have to travel to another state to teach, it would be weeks at a time, so it'd be like a whole
Yeah,
week class kind of a thing. And
yeah,
I have little kids, and I'm like, so instead of him flying, and doing a ticket like that, he would rent a car or rent a van, and we would go with, and we would
mm,
stay at the hotel with him, and so
yeah,
during the daytime, he would go teach, and then we would go find all the parks. We would go find all the
right,
zoos, and
right,
we would make it work that way, and instead
yeah,
of being excessive with spending, that's when you go ahead and get a loaf of bread, peanut butter, and jelly. So the kids can
yes,
still eat, you could still
yes,
eat, and you could still have, a nice time. And I didn't go on all the trips with him, but
right,
there were a couple that, yes, let's go to Minnesota. Yes, let's go to Ohio with you. So there
yeah,
was those few. Um, and it is about having a plan and
right,
looking at, what's better. Is it
yeah,
better to stay home for the week because the kids are little, or is it better to go with, have an experience, let them still see their dad and things like that? And so
yeah,
it was great because in Minnesota they have like this 3-story crawling tower thing, um, and it's
nice.
like it is. It's so nice. It's some playground area where you can drop your kids off because people go to the casino, or you could stay with your kids. And so
Wait, what?
Ross,
You can just dump your kids in some three-story play thing, and then,
yes.
like I mean, I did that at McDonald's at their play place all the time, but then,
Well, you got to
they
pay for it.
call the authorities a few times, and then you have to stop leaving them. But, no, I
Well,
never left my kids there.
I see, and I don't remember what the name of it is, and you have to pay for it and stuff. Or you can stay and you can rent the knee pads and the elbow pads so you can crawl around up there with them.
No.
Yes, so
They
Ross
give
was
the
up
parents
there. Yeah. 'cause one of them was really little, and so I stayed with the stroller with the kid, with the little guy, and they're up
Right.
there climbing around. Yeah, and they had, you could buy food there. It was a really fun little spot.
But that can be, I mean, that's an adventure for them. I think, learning, like my kids, we love to travel. We were talking about that earlier. We've been to, well, you asked me about the gold mine. Like literally,
Yeah, you
there
guys have
was,
been everywhere.
we went to Alaska and we rode four-wheelers for two and a
Wow.
half hours up into an active gold mine. And so, you learn a lot. Like I learned that if someone doesn't live there all winter long, it's considered abandoned and another company can come in and take over that mine. And so
Wow.
there are people that live in these, trailers and whatever. They live the whole winter long. And so they're stocked up with like eggs and bread and or eggs and flour and all of those things, hunt for their food. Like, I mean, it's a legit thing. And so this guy said there was a thaw in June. It was the first
Mhm.
thaw, and we literally rode ATVs over a glacier to
Oh,
get to
wow.
this man and bring him summer supplies and let him know that you could now get through, because we saw evidence of like how he had tried. He had only got this far, or he only got that far, then had to go
Mhm.
back because until it's thawed in a certain way. And there was like abandoned like dump trucks and things like that where they didn't make it out in
Wow.
time with them, so they just had to leave them for the winter, and then they come back and got them. But
Wow.
you learn so much when you get to travel. So like we're talking about in Wiley, Texas.
Mhm.
I was going to be there for 3 or 4 days, and so planning ahead meant my husband planned a trip for him and my son to go with. And so we all flew together. He rented a car, took me to the hotel, and then I caught up with you, and
Mhm.
you drove, everywhere that we went for 3 days at this comedy conference. And they went into Fort Worth. They they rented those scooters. This was the best. I came back to the hotel room one night, and they rented those little, what do they call them? I don't even remember what they're called. Nashville has,
The little razor scooter things?
yeah, it looks like a
Yeah.
razor, but they have a name for them. Anyway, they
Yeah.
rented those scooters, and they were doing fine. They were doing fine, and I had this whole image in my head of how this thing went out or went down. So there's their scooter. They're on their little scooters. They're flying on their scooters. Around the corner comes a gang of people on Segways, right? And they're on the big Segways, and this guy runs my husband off the sidewalk. And he flips, he hits the ground, his little scooter goes flying, the Segways just keep going. My son, my son was behind my husband on his scooter, and he just glanced over like, I don't know you, and he kept going. My husband's lying on the ground. I go back to the hotel that night. He had an ice pack on his wrist. You have to understand, I think my husband has broke one of his wrists like 3 or 4 times. And I got back and he had an ice pack on it, and he goes, I broke my wrist. I was like, what? And
Wait, did
Trey's
he?
dying laughing. No, he didn't break it. It was
Oh,
okay.
okay.
It was fine. He sprained it. It definitely, like, he had injured it when he fell. But anyway, that was an adventure. And they came along with me because we planned ahead, but they weren't
Yeah.
stuck doing all the comedy stuff. The other night
Mhm.
I noticed, and I made sure that I let my husband know how much I appreciated him, because there's been several events that he's gone to, like this event in Indiana I did the other night, where he's filling out some paperwork. He's setting up a tripod to record my set. He's doing all of those things
Mhm.
as I'm doing a sound check. And then now I disappear to the green room as they're bringing all the comedians back. And you always kind of feel out a situation of like, is it
Is it
okay to
okay?
have
Yeah.
extra people that, those kind of things. And he never is like, oh my gosh, you ignored me for 3 hours. Like he just comes in with the expectation that it'd be like if I went to, if I was sitting on the street at a structure fire watching him do his job, right? That
Mhm.
there would be no expectation that he stops and acknowledges me because he's busy
Yeah.
doing his job. And so he's always been like really, really good about that, even in situations where like somebody just wanted to talk to me for way too long. You know what I mean? But he just lets me do my thing. And another comedian's wife was there and just was like, wow, they just, you just learn how to flow with it. But it's the
Yeah.
balance. And it's
It is.
putting first things first, making that plan, and knowing that, comedy careers end. And I don't want to end
Mhm.
it without my husband, and I don't want it to end and my kids and my spouse not be there with me through the whole ride. So
Yeah.
they got to be important too, you know?
And if they're not important, how can you use them as, part of your material for comedy, right?
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, but you're
You
like
gotta
all
be able
kinds
to
of
talk
people do
about.
divorce material. All kinds of people talk about
Oh, yeah,
divorces
they
and
do, don't they?
so
Uh, so I was just gonna throw this up. Tip number 3 is don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, because
Mhm.
I know that when you do travel, if you're traveling with your spouse or without your spouse, or if you're traveling with other comedians or other coworkers, it can get pretty emotional sometimes. It can get pretty
Mhm.
heated. So don't make any permanent decisions based on your emotions. So like, well, that's it. I'm never doing this again, or
Right,
you're
right.
fired, or don't
Uh-huh.
don't do that. Take some time. Like, I need some space. How about the next trip you don't come with? And like, I know we've done that before. Because I because when the conference one time, one of our comedy conferences was in Florida at Disney. So of course the kids came, Ross came, my mother-in-law came, um, because I was going to be working and
Mhm.
they could play. And having 4 boys, you need that second person, especially if you're going to Disney World. I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
just
Oh,
do.
yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
which is, the 4th thing is have a support system.
Yeah.
And so if it's not family, get some good friends, get some
Yeah.
good comedians around you, good coworkers, and just start building your support system. And you have to realize that not one person can't do everything as your support.
Right,
You have to
right,
have several.
right,
It's a support system. So a house isn't built on one pillar.
right.
You got all the corners covered and you got the center covered. Then
Yeah.
you build your foundation, kind of a thing. Because I would hate for it to just collapse like that. But so we did the trip to Florida, we did a trip to Dallas, we did, and so he was with for several of them. But then something happened. We were traveling one day, and it was just like, just a heated, kind of long time in the
Right,
car.
right,
And
right.
we decided, you know what, we're going to take a break from us traveling together for a little while.
Yeah.
And it wasn't and it was a good thing, because
Right,
then we got to go back into, okay, what's our focus? What's our focus as our family? What's our focus? And so you can refocus things. So we didn't make any permanent decisions. We
right.
took the time to clear our heads, refocus. Okay, let's reprioritize what's happening here, because
Yeah.
it got into that, oh, things are on the upswing. We could do this and that and that, and it just kind of grew this way. But then our family life was suffering, so we had to make those adjustments, and then we did. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad we did. So glad we did.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I just want to say, I think this was a good episode. I'm just going to put that out there.
I do.
I
I'm
thought,
glad. It's very therapeutic. Because, I'm a communicator. It's therapeutic
um,
for both of us, even if it didn't work for anybody else. It's good to
that's
talk
right.
through it
That's right.
because, yeah.
Hey, we've already won the award,
We
so
had,
we don't
yeah,
have to
so now
try.
it's like,
No.
now we're just phoning it in. No, we hope you took something away from this episode today of the Laugh Support Podcast. Of course, you can always check us out anywhere that you get your podcast, right? So,
That's right.
tell them
Where
where,
is that?
Michelle.
So we're on Captivate.fm. We're on Amazon, Apple products, Audible, Spotify player. There's a bunch more. And
Yep.
then we also, if you don't want to spend just time listening, you can also watch us on
Mhm.
YouTube. You can watch us on Creative Motion Network on the Roku, and also Vimeo. And I think there's some other things too. Just Google the Laugh Support Podcast with June Colson and Michele VanDusen. If you Google uh, either of our names, here's if you Google my name, I am not the weightlifter. Just FYI,
Oh,
that
okay.
one's not me. So,
Nice. Nice.
yeah. So
Yeah. And if you
that's how you
Google
got the
my
laugh
name, I
support.
am the one that has a lot of extra weight on me. So that is me. That is me. All right, y'all. That's it for this episode of the Laugh Support Podcast. Thanks for being here. Jesus and Junebug loves you. Michelle, tell them goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll catch you next time.